Hey there guys, how's it going today? Hope it's going well. In this video we're having a bit more of a hot take again, and today I'm discussing the bounce land. So if you're unfamiliar with the bounce lands in EDH, basically there's a full cycle of them. Actually there's kind of two cycles of them in a sense, because there's all the ones that are monocolored, which are called the Karoo lands, which is how these lands kind of got their original name. A lot of people still call the dual color ones Karoo lands and whatnot. So yeah, there's one for each color. There's red, black, green, blue, white. They all have different names. They all are Karoos, essentially, the monocolored ones. And then you have the two-color guild bounce lands. So there's one of each pair, of course, again, so there's 10 of them. There's one for every color pair, as I said. So Izzet, Dimir, Rakdos, whatever, blah, 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 all that. All of those exist in Magic. And, like, guys, I just don't think they're that good at all. They're absolutely poop. They're not good at all. Like, outside of, because I know someone's going to say it, outside of very, 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 and I'm going to say that again, very specific decks, they're just not really worth including in your deck, because unless you care about specifically having that land in there for a very specific reason, there's no point. Now, yes, if you're in two colors, it's probably fine to run one. That's fine. I'm just saying, in more colors for the most part, this is where I find the problem, because everyone seems to have this problem nearly every single time that they play three or more colors. With these bounce lands, is they either go turn 1 or turn 2 bounce land, then have to discard. Like, it's just one of those really terrible plays. I know sometimes you can't avoid it, but that's the problem. It starts with deck building. It doesn't just start with saying, oh, well, I got unlucky. No, you didn't just get unlucky. You've got, 3 other bounce lands in your deck, or whatever it is. You've got 2 other bounce lands that are in your deck that don't add anything to your deck except for saying that they bounce back to your hand. Now, yes, again, as I was saying, there's some decks that would want that very specific card because it's part of a combo, like Retreat to Coralhelm combo. That's a very famous one. But outside of that, it's just not that worth it. Like, unless you're a graveyard deck and you can somehow take advantage of discarding cards when you do this, because you almost always seem to do this, is especially when you're in 3+ colors, because you've got 3 of these somewhere in your deck. So it doesn't sound so likely, but it always seems to happen that somebody draws it and plays it either turn 1 or turn 2 when you're in 3 or more colors, whatever. But again, it's one of those things. It's so ridiculous. Unless you've got very specific, reasons to play it, like you've got a combo with it, or you've got a reason to put it in there, like you're doing stuff with your graveyard. I see so many people say, well, it's ramp on a land. No, it's not ramp on a land, because it comes in tapped and it bounces a land back to your hand. Yes, you can float mana with the land that you had, and then you wait a turn or whatever, and you can untap it, and then it taps for, well, presumably at least 2 of your colors, if not all of your colors. But it's just not that really worth it. Like, again, I get there's going to be people that are out there that are just like, I buy the precon, I sleeve up the precon, I play it, I never really modify it very much, I don't really care if I, sit there and I play 17 games or 18 games, and every single game I play turn 1 or turn 2 bounce land and then have to discard. They just don't think about it. They don't really care that much. They're just like, oh yeah, that happens. It's just me being unlucky. No, it's not. But again, I get why some people just go, oh, well, it's not really that relevant or whatever. I'll just discard whatever and move on with my life. Yeah, sure. But again, it's just one of those things. These cards aren't that good. Yes, again, there are some places that you can take advantage of them. If you're in a landfall deck, for example, that isn't too bad of a area to try and take advantage of them. But again, I just find that when you're playing that deck, those sorts of decks, you want to be in control of when you bounce lands. You don't want to just be like, oh, I so happen to have this bounce land. And again, unless you have the Retreat of Coral Helm thing going, where you can basically bounce it and play it, bounce it and play it, sort of thing going on, and infinitely play lands, sort of thing. It's just not that terribly effective, really. It just doesn't really do you much to bounce another land, even if you can play another land, even if it's the same land, and even unless you can really abuse it, and play infinite lands or whatever. Then it's like, oh yeah, this is ridiculously stupid. Now you're just going to gain anything that has an enter the battlefield effect from a land, or a landfall effect rather. For the most part, is just going to go infinite. So that's just a really powerful, thing that you can do. But again, sure, again, minor decks that, exist. You tell me one Boros deck or whatever, one Dimir deck that actually cares about, bouncing lands or playing lands or whatever, things like this. There's none, really. There's no decks that are like that. So when you're in those decks and you're considering it, if you're ever going into your deck and going, well, why have I got these here? Is it just for flavor reasons? Oh, this is a deck that's based in Ravnica and I've got all the Ravnica themed stuff. Sure, okay, if you're going down that route and you're going down that route for flavor purposes and you have them in there or whatever, or you're trying to do some weird variants of the Gates deck, but you're doing the Bounce Lands deck or something, weird where you're trying to have all the Ravnica things going on in a deck, then sure, if that's part of the flavor of the deck, you don't want to give that up for the flavor of the deck purposes, then again, I'm not going to argue to you to say you should take them out. That's your decision. If your decision is to sit there and say, oh, well, this is the way I want to play, I don't really care that much, then you go ahead. I'm not trying to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't do. I'm just trying to make a point and suggest things to people who are newer players or less experienced players or whatever that might go, every time I seem to play these cards, I seem to play this on turn 1 or turn 2, or it's just an irrelevant card that just bounces the land back to my hand and it doesn't really do anything. It either is really bad early on, and this is the whole quadrants of magic thing. You look at cards, are they good early on? Are they good when you're setting up? Are they good when you're behind? Are they good when you're ahead? These 4 quadrants. And basically, they're just not good at any point. They're not good early because, again, you get that problem of going, oh, bounce land, I have to discard something. They're not good when you're setting up because, again, it comes in tapped and then you have to return another land to your hand. So, it's well, I'm trying to set up. I don't have the time really to screw around and fiddle with this bounce land and hope that I can just wait another couple turns for me to actually start getting my mana together, start getting my, artifacts and enchantments or some card draw or my creatures or whatever else. It's just another hurdle. When you're, behind, again, it's just another bounce land that doesn't really add anything to your deck unless your deck's very specific synergy around it. Again, so it's just not that good. It's, again, coming in tapped, so again, it doesn't really help you that much. Now, when you're ahead, yeah, there are a couple of occasions where it's okay, and again, if you have the very specific synergies, it's incredible. But again, other than that, it's just another bounce land that returns the land to your hand. So how good is that? Again, it doesn't really do that much. So overall, when you assess these cards and you look at them like this, and you think about it like critically just for a second, you realize that they're not that good. I understand why people like them, because of, flavor reasons or nostalgia or whatever. They are a dual land and they are a budget dual land. So they're okay for budget. And again, if you're running one of them, you're probably never going to worry about this whole problem. But it is a problem when you're in 3, 4, and 5 color decks that you suddenly start going, well, now I have a whole bunch of these and I seem to either always get them early on or later on when they're just like both clunky and just don't really do anything in my deck. So, if you're looking at them in your deck and thinking, dude, why have I actually got these in here? What are they actually doing? Does this actually help me fix my mana? Like, when you look at your ramp spells, now this depends, like, what you're doing, or you look at some of your fetchable lands and whatnot, things like this. If you've got things like Knight of the White Orchid and the new Loyal Warhound and cards like that get out planes, and your deck doesn't have that many planes, or you have less planes that you can get in your deck, when you're looking through your deck and you go, oh, why have I got this bounce land in here? I can't, fetch it out with my, it's a dual, but I can't fetch it out. It's not a basic, nor is it a dual that I can fetch. So it's just like, well, what's it doing in there? Like, unless it's very specific again, it doesn't make that much sense. Again, same thing with Cultivate, Rampant Growth, Farseek, whatever. All these cards, they're not a basic, so you can't find them off of those things. They're not a typed land, so they're not a plains or a forest or whatever, or a swamp. So you can't search for them that way. Like, there's very few effects that you can say that search for them, like Expedition Map, okay, and Sylvan Scrying, or whatever it's called, those effects. But then, is that really like the best land that's in your deck? Probably not. So it's just like, well, what's it doing in there? That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to hate on these cards or hate on anyone that plays them. I'm just saying they're actually pretty bad. And, in the end, if you want to play them and you're just like, oh, well, this is my deck where I'm trying to keep the power level low or lower for newer players, or this is again, it's a deck that I just got, it's a pre-con or whatever, and I haven't modified it because I want that deck to be weaker, whatever, so on and so forth. Yeah, sure, again, I'm not telling you what to play and what not to play and what power level your deck should be at. I'm just saying, if you look at it and you go, yeah, it is a bit shit, if I ever want to upgrade this deck, or I actually want to take this deck, to my LGS or whatever, and actually get higher level games with it, yeah, I probably should take those out. Or I always find that they're awkward and whatnot. Again, you don't actually have to take them out for anything that's super duper powerful or super duper expensive. You will just find that, even saying, yes, it's another tap land, a lot of the other tap lands are much more worth running for the most part, if they have some sort of other upside. The gain life ones, they're kind of probably the worst. The scry ones would be the next ones that I would say are the next worst. And then the ones that I actually kind of really like are the new Kaldheim ones. Those ones are really good that come in tap because they have types and you can search for them. Yeah, they don't have cycling like was it Zendikar? No, I don't think there was Zendikar. The Amonkhet lands, but I don't think that's that relevant. I don't like that the other lands have cycling because I always go, well, why am I searching for it then? If I'm searching for it and putting it into the battlefield, I don't want it to have that extra other ability like cycling. I want it to have another ability like that I can sacrifice it, or that I can do something else with it. But again, that's just me personally in those little things. But again, anyway, that has pretty much been my discussion here. I want to do more of these. I want to get more into doing some of this stuff, because I do come up with these ideas here and there, and I do try to bring you guys stuff that I hope that, gives you something to think about a little bit, when you're like building decks or whatever and going out there and whatnot. Because I want to have the most fun when I go to play with people, and I want people to have the most fun when they come to play. I don't want people to come and play and then go, oh, bugger, I've got 40 bounce lands in my hand or whatever. And not literally, but again, like, oh, I've got the bounce land in my hand again. I guess I'm discarding something and not playing anything, because that just leads to feel bads. Like, again, I've played games where, I sit down and I just don't draw that second or third land or fourth land or whatever for half the game, and then the game's over, and I'm just like, well, that's what happens. Some people are very much like, well, go find land, we want a real game. But that's what happens. Like, I might even talk about this a little bit more in another video. But anyway, guys, I'll stop rambling on here. But anyway, tell me what you guys think. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. Give me some ideas that you might want to see for the series, or for anything else as well, because everything I do here is for you guys. So let me know what you think right down there in the comments below. If you would like to further support the channel, you can go onto our Patreon. You can also get social with us on our Facebook. To follow all the updates, make sure you hit the like button. And on our Discord, to get into it, please leave a comment and I'll send you an invite. All links are in the description. I hope you have enjoyed this video here today, and if you have, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, and I hope you will come back for another one. See you then.